Well, hello, wealthy women. I have a brilliant interview today. This one is something special. You're going to be so energized and ready to just do things like you've never thought to do them after meeting this beautiful woman named Peggy. So, rather than give you all the details, I'm going to turn it over to her right now. And she is just a ball of fire, energy through the roof, adorable and fabulous in so many ways. And she's got, a huge heart and a big mission. And I really would like for her to introduce herself to you and get to know her. And you're going to love this interview and be so inspired. So, Peggy, take it away.
You are hired. Thank you so much for having me. I think I'm going to start right off the gate by just first of all thanking you to recognize any energy, right? We all, whether it's negative or positive, we have to hang out with like-minded people, and I just appreciate that you can see my passion in my that's just how I live my life. I'm too old now to do what I don't want to do. So,
Amen.
right? But thank you that
Mhm.
you can see that because I've been doing I've been in the health and wellness industry for about 35 years. And I can say that before we knew what the word coaching was or what even nutrition was back in the day or fitness, I knew it had something to do with behavior and mindset. I knew that I could teach people how to eat and be healthy and quality of life, all that stuff, but I knew it was going to start with mindset really early on. So for decades, no matter what my real job was, I always had this side job of nutrition or exercise or some sort of coaching, whether I was in the medical field working, running medical clinics or whatever I was doing. And over the years, after 25 years in corporate America, and
Mhm.
trying to, even as a worksite wellness coordinator, I feel like I spent so much of my time running from upper management to what I always called our workers, the widget makers, the little minions per se. I mean, trying to get them to understand. Do you know
Yeah.
why the revolving door is there? Because they're not happy. Would you like to
Yeah.
retain them and save it? And I spent so much time after decades, I decided to go off on my own. I got a little bit of a rebel and ran away from corporate America. Told my grown children, I'm going to live where I want to live, do what I want to do. You can come see me. I kind of just did that whole woman thing that we
Love
can,
it.
right?
Love
Stand up for
that.
our freaking
Empower.
selves. Yes. And I left everything and started all by myself. And it took about a year or two after coaching virtually, doing some wellness retreats, things like that. It took about a year before I realized I really wanted to create a tool to help people understand. Because if you go home from a boot camp, if you go home from the gym, if you have a relationship that ends, it's still all about you. You're there. That's the commonality. So, how do you balance and figure that out? And I really think that the world is sick and tired of to-dos and self-help books. We got to go here, take responsibility, figure out where we are, and then fix those holes. So I created All Things Wellness is what my business is now. Allthingswellness.com. You can find things there. All Things Wellness Coach, my radio show, all of those things, because it is all about all things. So really what I want the listeners to hear today is, even though I started working for others like we all do, and many people became entrepreneurs, it's still all about that connection, that all things. So heart, spirit, mind, and body is the four quadrants of my trademarked wheel, All Things Wellness wheel. So metaphorically, I want you guys to think about a wheel rolling along, or if you back out of the driveway, if there's a puncture in it, like everything stops. You can
Yes.
go with a slow leak, right, for a little bit and maybe get away with it for a couple of miles, but eventually it stops. So this wheel, and I have a free downloadable on my website, this wheel helps you figure out where are those punctures along those spokes. There's 24 spokes. Whether, again, it's a coping skill, emotion, relationships, organization, your body, your spirit. Where are you from 0 to 10? Where's that puncture? Because you and I both know you can go to the gym 7 days a week, or you can date somebody 7 days a week, or you can not open your mail 7 days a week. That stuff catches up.
Yeah.
So, right, it's just like looking at
Yes.
that slow leak, sitting back and going, I even go to, what's your love language? What's
Mhm.
your learning style? Are you right, left brain? What's your chronotype? Because it's, girl, you
All
came
really
in the world
important.
you can't, there's an exclamation point at the end of the sentence. My scissors went flying, but you came in the world naked and alone. So, and you're going out that way. And it sounds very selfish, but along the way, you have to become your best self. So long story long, after starting my business and having a radio show and working with lots of people, I've spun all the way over to now writing. I've always wanted to write, always have written. I wanted to create a platform for stories to get out there because that's how we really connect. You know, if you talk to me about going through a divorce, I'm going to be like, whoa, you know, I get that. I get that. Versus here is a book on how to heal from your divorce. Like, what's the difference, right? Big difference. So about 2 years ago, I started doing the whole compilation book. I'd been a media partner for some authors who had done it, but I've gone off to write. I'm doing all things wellness book series. So these are books 1 and 2. The third one, Wellness GPS, is being written right now. So we're seeking authors who tell their true and personal story. But what's so interesting about it, there's a little wheel up in the upper right-hand corner that has a number 1. Right. And so book 2 has a number 2. Well, what that wheel is my all things wellness wheel. So the chapters within the book is heart, spirit, mind, and body. And no matter what you write about, you have a home in the book. And then I'm writing, I just am publishing next week. I have to just show you because I just got it. The Boy with the Broken Nose.
I saw your Facebook post before. I'm loving this. So
I know. And
how
I wrote
special.
it. Yeah, I wrote it 21 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wrote it about my son. And so now that he is a grown man with 2 children, we decided to go back in these children's books that we're going to be writing and say, Tanner, Dad, what's your takeaway with what in the heck you did? And Mom, takeaway.
I love that.
And we have some prompts in there to help parents, like how to create, you know, let your child tell their emotions and how to build those coping skills.
So important.
And then the other thing I want to mention is unsheltered, you guys. I really focused on writing. So if you're a podcaster and you want to chat with me, or if you want to talk to me about blogging or something, it's really Peggy equals stories right now. I closed my coaching practice last year to just dedicate everything to telling stories. And the project I'm working on now, amidst all this other fun stuff, is a project called Unsheltered, Voices from the Street. And we are now going out onto the street and getting true and personal stories from those who are homeless, those who have been, those who might know somebody, those that might be an organization such as a soup kitchen that says, I'll tell you what's going on in LA or Rome or Japan. So we're writing that book, and you can see that on the website. And one more shout out to Joe DeMio. Joe DeMio, you guys, he's a 24, you're going to walk away and that's the only thing you're going to remember I said. Joe DeMio is a 25-year-old man. He's writing the foreword for my Wellness GPS book. He is the 25-year-old man who has the first ever world successful face transplant and dual hand transplant. And he's writing the foreword. And y'all, I have nothing to complain about with what Mr. Joe's been through. Yes. So I just really want to say, first of all, thank you for reaching out to me. And we connected from second one. And sharing these stories is way above me. I'm just vesseling the heck out of it, creating a platform. I'm just flowing this stuff and happy as a lark.
Well, wow. I mean, it's just, I told you, everyone, the energy and the mission that this woman is on is mind blowing to me, because there is just so much inspiration. And, you know, it's just amazing your level of skills. And so you just pour yourself into projects, and you are just going to, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the right way. I mean, that is the energy that's coming across. And I just love everything that you're saying. This, you know, especially as women, we want this holistic approach. Everything matters. And like you said, one puncture in one part of your life will affect all the other parts. We know that. And health is everything, mental health and the whole 9 yards. And then to take and transfer and go into those people that are just in sort of a survival mode, and be able to communicate with them where they feel heard and valued and helped. Right. This project of yours, I am rooting for so much. So also there's probably some fundraising too that you could, even if people wanted to get on your website and help your project, help these people. This is another thing. I'm all for those kind of things. So just say your website one more time so everybody gets, and they'll see all the things that you're doing, from these amazing books that you're doing with your child, your son, and how great is that, to your wellness books, to your, projects that are helping hands,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. The website is allthingswellness.com, and I probably have way too big of a menu than anybody in IT would ever say, but because I can get in there and play myself, I just keep. So have fun on the left. You can kind of see how crazy I am. And then I've got some media partners, of which you're on there. Thank you so much, people that I work with. And then the author tab is really what's kind of been building. And so any book that I've been a part of, the Unsheltered book is the one where it is actually, if I've never done this project like this before, we have never found anything out there like this compilation book with homeless, but we're doing it for good, not for profit. So the donations or anything that comes in, because we're looking for teams as well. We're looking for, maybe you're a nonprofit who wants to donate some time. Maybe you do social media and donate some time and be a part of this. David Barenbaum, who is the Assistant Deputy Secretary of HUD out of DC, is writing the foreword.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big
He
deal.
has happy eyes, I'm here to tell you. And then what you can do is you can just say, hey, I'm going to donate a little bit of money. What that does go for is just the production of the book, the actual editing and formatting process, and the publishing of the book. So just the meat. The rest of it, we have a Good Works Foundation that is going to sit back and say, where can we, disperse some of this money? Okay, Tampa's really doing, let's help them. Or again, this is a global effort. So we're working with people in Japan, all over the place. And again, I want to say that, I have a radio show, but if you got a podcast or radio show or print that you want to help us get this out there, living on the streets is dangerous. And there's all these kind of preconceived notions of what that is. They're all drug addicts. They're lazy. They're dirty. And you and I are both a couple of paychecks from being them, or a mother or a sister. And a lot of people get addicted to drugs or in those situations after they become homeless. And it's scary out there for them. But what we're learning is the sense of community they have to protect each other, how much we can really take one baby step and make a difference in their life. That's why I do this whole writing thing, girl, is that I sit here and cry with them. These stories come into me. I've worked with a couple hundred authors over the last year and a half, 2 years. So the stories come into me and I edit and we all work with them. And I have been on the floor bawling before. I've had to regroup and stay away from the stories we're talking addictions and trauma. And
it gets into you. Yeah, it's a lot. Yes.
it is a lot. And the funnest thing, not the funnest, but the most rewarding thing is watching writers evolve, because every single person on the planet is a writer. Everyone. And we think we're not. You're a storyteller of your own story. And if you don't tell it, somebody else will, or nobody will. So when we work through this and I'm pulling the emotions out and trying to sprinkle the little adjectives and make it luring, is to watch the writer go from cathartically it being kind of about them, right? This is a journal entry. This is why I want to do this. Then coming all the way to the other side and teaching them, now read your story. Were there any questions in there? Was there anything open-ended? Is this a movie that you're like, what? And then to get them to the place where they think about, whoa, if I read somebody's story about wanting to, end my life, if I read that Chicken Soup of the Soul-ish 2,000 words and I stop because of that story, that's when I see my authors go, are you kidding me? Like, it matters. And that's why I'm doing this, is to watch that growth.
I love this. And it's such important work that you're doing, because to have a voice, to get that voice out there, to help one person is, how can life be better than that when you're serving and helping? And I just think everything that you're doing is so important. And please reach out to Peggy. She is amazing. And all of her things are amazing. You have just such a beautiful ensemble, but really, I just really want all the women here to be inspired. Look at how much she is doing. She's just going for it. She's not thinking, should I, can I, blah, blah, blah. She's just doing it and figuring it out and helping and being a
And
part of
it's a
something big.
lonely path, as a female, and I say this all the time, and I preface it starting professionally. I'm going to throw gender on you in 2 seconds, because you know what? It is a little bit darn tough still in 2023 to stand up tall, get the same damn paycheck, excuse me, and fight for what you want to be and do. Now, when I was younger, yeah, I'm a leader, I'm not a follower. And so it doesn't mean I've always had everybody on my team. Sometimes you guys, if you're creative and you feel years ahead and somebody tells you that's crazy or it's not going to work, doesn't matter. You can be a decade ahead. Forge it by yourself or a few people who can lift you up. The rest, let them fall away. It doesn't matter. But over these years, as a strong woman, it was really difficult, especially in corporate America, and trying to talk about wellness, because that was back in the 80s when we were saying, early 90s, we were saying, let's get well. Right.
Yeah.
And what did that mean? And here we're still having those conversations that's, self-love is not selfish and all of, well, obviously we must feel it is. We're still talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So with that thinking, I want everybody to really think about being, you have a game piece and you can't make the next move until you decide how to do it. So as a woman, healthy, and wise is in here, here, and it's out there. So on the days that I struggled and didn't have the family support or the friends who understood why I work so much and that it's a passion, on those days, I tried to focus on someone else, which sounds weird. Right.
No, it sounds exactly spot on. Right. Correct.
Instead of sitting in here going, oh my gosh, nobody supports me, nobody gets it, and blah, blah, blah. I would try to find somebody where I'm like, do you get this? I'm here for you. Let's go. I'll listen to you. And that cycle is what's coming back after decades of doing this, because you don't always see. My mother, God rest her soul, never understood me. She wanted to support in her best way, but I think, frankly, she was afraid of where I was going because it wasn't ground she had walked on before. She was a teen mom. She, graduated later. And so I didn't always have that family and close-knit support. It was always like, oh, there she goes, doing that again. But it always webbed itself together. And now as I head towards 60, I'm sitting here and going, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. I did that. So you guys, getting fired up. Your life resume is more important than your professional resume. It is more important when you go into your interviews and you say, you know what? I may not have a bunch of acronyms after my name, but I've done this, this, and this. I'm a good listener. I treat people with respect. I'm a hard worker. I'm dependable. I lift up your mission, but here's me. And that whole life path, that's what's important. Where you lived, who you were dating, if you went through foreclosure, like that's the meat. That's the meat.
That's what builds the character, which helps you decide who you are, what you value, what you desire. And then you, like you said, you get to a point where you're doing it your way, and that's just how it's going to be. And people will either come along or drop away. And yes, I agree with this. And any desire that is in your heart means it is meant for you, and you must follow it until if it changes and you don't feel it's meant for you anymore, that's a different story. But if that desire is in your heart, you need to go for it. You cannot listen to naysayers. You can't be afraid. You just have to go on the journey. And
it'll make you sick. It'll make you sick.
Exactly. We're meant to serve. Absolutely. So I have some success questions for you. Are you ready? Woo, get ready.
I'm ready.
It's the round. So I'm going to pick, I won't do all of them. I'll just pick through a couple. So give me a moment with my little readers on. So I already know your big vision, which is brilliant. That's all I can say to that. Here's something I would ask you then. So, we're getting this interview in front of a lot of women that are either just starting to build their business or in the middle of it, or, maybe just need a little inspiration because it's a tough day for them. So if you could only choose one answer, what is the number one way that building your business has enriched your life? And why would you encourage other women to build their own businesses as a form of self-empowerment? that's the second question is probably more because we
Yeah.
get the whole.
I think self-empowerment is something, especially my generation. So for those that are younger, maybe they were supported differently than I was. So hopefully this helps you. But along the way, we're not really taught, ask the questions. What do you really like to do or not like to do? And how can you convert that to money? You love to paint, but how do we convert that? How can we put food in your mouth if you love to sing? That's where the strategy should be taking place with our children, instead of saying, well, you're smart in math, so why don't you become an engineer? Really? If they don't want to, it's steer that. Our young entrepreneurs, you can't just have all fun. You have to equate some of it to money. And for some entrepreneurs, that might mean just getting your feet wet a baby bit. Maybe 10 hours a week you dedicate strategically to this thing, making jewelry, this thing, and always lift it up and be proud of yourself. Because when you're tired, when you need your own support and you're tired, that's when the small businesses cave, because they don't fight through that, getting through the river on the other side and drying off and keep going. So try it 10 hours, 20 hours, but find your support system, you young guys. I'm telling you right now, find those 5 people in your circle that you love that will say the tough stuff. You need to eat, Peggy. You haven't eaten. You haven't eaten for 3 days. You need to sleep. You need to get out and walk. And it's going to make you mad. But if you don't have those people, when you're passionate, our young people out there, women out there, when you're passionate, those red flags go away because you're pumped up with adrenaline. The cortisol is so high, you're fired up and you're higher than a kite on passion, that you don't see those red flags until you crash. So it's very bipolar as an entrepreneur,
Yeah. No,
get
it's so
anywhere
true. Having that support system to bring you up, and like you say, start slow. Don't overwhelm yourself, so that you stay in love with your idea and your business. Because if you do too much all at once, you'll burn out, and then you'll decide you don't like your business. But that could be the farthest thing from the truth. You might have just put too much on your plate.
Well, the other thing too with that is the fact that you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. So just because you love your product or you love your passion, for me, one of the biggest learnings I learned about 5 or 6 years ago, 2018, 17 or 18, I realized when I ran away from corporate America in 2016, I was going to do it all. I'm going to do it all myself. Forget you guys. I can't. I ran across the country, literally. But you don't know what you don't know when you become an entrepreneur. Do you like marketing? Do you like cold calls? Can you build your own website? Do you have a platform? And if you say no to all of those, you better fork out the cash or barter with somebody who does. That was the biggest thing for me as I tried to do it all. It was exhausting and I wasted a bunch of time trying to learn.
Yes.
And I got angry about the things I just simply didn't want to do.
Yes, and you also have a hard time complimenting yourself on all the things that you do correctly, because you're focusing on all the things that you either don't like or don't know how to do or have to learn, and it feels overwhelming. I am the queen of this at the beginning of my business, and you're so correct. You give yourself such a hard time, and you never stop and say, listen, why can't I just outsource some of this? Or why don't I put more of the attention on the things that are working that I enjoy and figure it out? And it doesn't all have to, like they say, Rome was not built in a day. And this is hard for women because we think we need to do it all. And we not only need to do it all, but we have this perfectionistic mentality, which just talk about a joy kill. You're never going to be satisfied with yourself. This is your dream, desirable, beautiful business. And you have to take these little steps, compliment yourself, notice what you did do properly, and only focus on that. Start to notice what you don't enjoy, but don't throw away the baby with the bathwater, right? Yeah. That's the saying.
And just start look at the money that you're making. That's what's the reality. Really, time is money, money is time. Yeah. And when we're working for another corporation and they call us in for a performance review, they're like, hey, Peggy, this is the output, and these are how many hours that you put in. So what's up? What did you do here? We don't do that as entrepreneurs unless you have your own board of directors. So they don't come in and go, okay, you worked 17 hours the last week. You have no income or no support. You paid no money to do these things you're learning. So now you're making $1.11 an hour. But we don't look at it that way because we want to just keep doing what makes us feel good. It's a reward system. Our dopamine is so high and our cup
Yes.
overfloweth that we don't see those holes. But it's teams, it's people. We're not supposed to be alone. You can barter out of the gate, not to death, because that got me in trouble a lot.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
eventually have some
Exactly.
resources. But you can find a few hours of someone whose passion isn't maybe even their business, but they love making business cards. I don't know, making it up.
Exactly. Absolutely.
But reach
So
out to them. Go ahead.
agreed. Like, make your business a joyful experience and notice your limits, notice your strengths, and figure it out, and be realistic and pay attention to your numbers, because ultimately you have to pay the bills. So, it's great to have your hobby business, but only if you can afford your life. If you're relying on your business, and you have to treat it like a real business. And part of that, of course, is making sure you have a team that is supportive. I love it. It's really great. So, okay, I have another question for you.
Okay.
So, successful day for you. What does that look like? A day in the life of you when it's a successful one.
This is
I'm sure
hard.
we're all successful, but say
Well,
yes.
this is hard because I'm a self-professed, I'm addicted to mania, right? That's just by nature who I am. Like, I love that feel of like, get stuff done, check it off. I'm a left brainer. And it's just like, so for many years I would go, oh, that list looks fantastic. I feel good. That was a successful day. It was really hard and still hard. I have no problem admitting the areas I need to improve on. I have a hard time balancing it with being. So I'm a to-doer, not a to-beer. And so it's hard for me to say, well, Peggy, remember those days when you just got up and you went for a walk before the world woke up? And because it has to be something I can equate it to that's an outcome. So for me, a successful day is at the end of the day where I end it earlier. I started about 4 or 5 years ago. My family knows I shut my phone down. Everybody's like, how are they going to get a hold of you? I'm like, write a letter in the sand. I don't know. I'll find you tomorrow. Because even if something's horrific that happens, I mean, and my guy's here so they can get a hold of him, but I had to do that because I couldn't stop responding. I would have clients, honestly, I'm not kidding, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, reach out. I had one who had a cake sitting in a Walmart parking lot, and she was like, I'm going to eat this whole thing. And when you get that text at 10 o'clock at night, you're like, oh my God. But for
Yes.
me, success had to be to button down that day. And then to make sure I have to get my feet in the sand or walk outside. I have to get outside. I have to get that vitamin D. So for success is, maybe success is actually not checking off all the boxes.
I love what you just actually said. And I think I want to chat a little bit more about it, because I think it's really important, especially when we're online business owners and we have clients from around the world. Well, then you're never going to stop getting messages all around the clock. It's not your typical 9 to 5 situation in the same time zone with your people. And I also have been feeling this, because we want to serve, we want to help, we want to do all that we can to make someone else's life better, and it does feel really good to do that. That is a joy. I think that's one of the reasons many of us women are in business. However, there comes again that point of burnout. If you are just giving it all away and you don't have your boundaries, you're going to get exhausted. I literally just did something very recently to put boundaries in place for myself, because I realized if I'm an empty tank, I don't have anything to give anyway. And I had to, on my, it's as simple as this, even on my email signature now, I put a picture that says Mondays and Fridays I'm unavailable. I'm content creation focused, and I am available on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to communicate with you. Do I always practice it? No, but for me, it was a huge step of saying, Tamara, you have to stop, because I was doing the same thing. I will check things at 1 a.m. when I'm half asleep. I get up for a minute and then I'm like, well, maybe I should check my phone. And then of course someone writes and I'm like, and then I'm into it, and then I'm up, and then I'm not sleeping properly. And I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. So I am saying, I love that you brought this up, and you just jogged my memory, because I just recently changed my whole thing on my email signature. So everybody can be made aware of it now. So I'm like trying to say, please, we have to have boundaries.
Isn't it
And I
funny
stand
that
for
we
this.
have to almost give ourselves permission to give ourselves permission to, and I find people are actually more accepting of it. Last year we got hit by Hurricane Ian at my house where I live in Southwest Florida. And we sat through it for 9 hours, 156 miles per hour. And so we were out of power for days, water for days. All of my house was 70% had to be fixed. But here's what the biggest learning is for me. I wrote a blog about 4 things, and it is people after the storm, places after the storm, things after the storm, and animals after the storm, because they are never the same. For me, when I realized that me reaching out to everybody and me over serving did me no good. As I woke up, we didn't know what day we were going to get power. So it was like day 4.5 or whatever it was. And I woke up and I saw that I had power and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm trying to let everybody know. I'm like, okay, Messenger, Facebook, TikTok, what's going on? And I'm counting. And there were 27 people that reached out to see if I was still alive. 27. I sat outside because I'm not this, good job, or I need this. I sat outside. I cried for about 35 minutes and I thought, you can't be mad at anybody. You created this all yourself, because all these people, and as I gathered information and shared this story, it was affirmed to me is that you always let everybody know everything's fine. You take care of it. You're strong. You don't need anybody. And so in that, they're sitting back and going, phew, she's good, but nobody reaches out. So after that, a year ago, I finally said, if you've got to stop this addiction of overperforming, which probably started at age 5, because if I don't do it for myself and I'm not happy, I'm just going to get sick. In 2017, I was so sick. I had so many manifestations. And as an entrepreneur, you guys all know, if there ain't you, there ain't you, and it's over, the doors close. So that manifestation, especially autoimmune stuff and illness and infections, I believe are because we're not living our passion and taking care of ourselves. I think that's a manifestation of that.
Absolutely. And what you said about how you had to make that, strict line for yourself. I found that too, because here I'm a coach and I'm coaching women to set boundaries for themselves and all the things. And then I was like, well, wait a second. Am I doing it? I'm preaching it, but am I following my own advice? And then it was just like, whoa. And I have to lead by example, right? And so yes, people, and what you just said, people will appreciate that you put the boundaries in place, and that will respect that. And the world doesn't fall apart if you're a little late getting back to somebody. So
I'm not that big a deal. That's what I finally realized. I'm not that big a deal. Like, no one is dying because I'm not doing whatever.
But really, this is an important message for all the women out there, because, we're nurturers and caretakers, and we have to help right away. No, calm it down, make some boundaries for yourself, take care of yourself. It's the whole oxygen mask situation. Absolutely. Give yourself oxygen first, because you can't help anybody else until you're okay. So that's good answer. Okay, let me see what we have. A couple more questions. Sure. Oh, I like this one. Okay. Especially for you. I don't even know if you have fear, but how do you deal with fear and doubt? And, a lot of our women here, they get a little nervous to be on Facebook Lives and the thing. So I always like to kind of bring it back to that a lot of the time, because I know that's something we all struggle with, or at least initially when we're starting our businesses and we have to be everywhere and seen. Yeah. Maybe you can share about that part.
Make a TikTok channel and get familiar. No.
Yeah, right. It is kind of that simple, isn't it?
It's one of those things that no matter what you do for the first time is scary, and you don't know how it'll come out. It doesn't matter if it's a recipe, if it's debate class in high school, if it's your first date, everything is scary coming out of the gate. The best advice I could give you is preface it with something that's kind of a self-deprecating humor kind of thing. If you're doing your first live or your 100th and you're still uncomfortable, just say, girl, I have no idea where this is going. I am nervous. Just preface it without perfection. Never let anyone who's listening or that you're working with believe that you're perfect. Your business will shut next month. You have to be transparent and authentic, and tell them you don't sleep, and tell them that you do whatever, and be real. And because guess what? Everybody else on the other side is real.
Yes.
They want to be you.
Yes.
So, and do more and more of it. The more uncomfortable it feels just means you have to do more of it. That's it. And
That's
who
right.
cares?
It's like a muscle, right? It's just a muscle that you're
Who
building.
cares?
But I love that. And I agree with you. Set it up that this won't be perfect. So, and then you take so much pressure off yourself and you can have fun with it. Just
Yeah.
laugh at yourself, be lighthearted. It's not that big of a deal. And the more relatable you are, the better. And it goes right back to kind of what you were talking about. You are your own story. So share
Yes.
it and just be you. You don't have to be a cookie cutter image of anybody
You
else. Just
don't
be
want to
you.
be. You're
And you
your
don't
own
want to be.
brand. You want to
Yes,
be unique
exactly.
because your product's not. Your product's not that
Exactly.
unique,
Right.
people.
That's so
Your new
true.
diet has got nothing to do with nothing that it did in 57. So you're your own
Exactly.
brand. Another piece of advice that I've given before is if you really want to get used to social media and it's scary, then create a private Facebook group with one or two of your friends and then just go live within the group or create a TikTok. I have a TikTok channel that I started a couple of years ago because I wanted a playground to be my goofy self and not have to worry about nothing. And I'll tell you what, I could be in here with some sort of filter cracking myself up. Get familiar with that because usually, Tamara, what it is it's the getting ready to hit the button. It's the technology piece that ramps people up. Just
Yes. You know what I started doing? Kind of what you were just saying about just let them know it's not going to be perfect.
Mhm.
In the beginning, because it's the tech stuff, right? So in the beginning, when I started doing even the interviews, and I would be like, oh, okay, I got to trim it here because I put on my glasses and you could see I'm trying to hit the stop button. Well, this could be an hour of wasted time over trying to trim 20 seconds. I got to the point where my time was too valuable and people are not going to, they're going to get the message of the interview. I don't do it anymore. I don't care if I look funny and you could tell I'm looking around trying to hit the end button. That's relatable. That's real people
You
stuff.
know,
And it sets it up for other people to not have to be perfect too. So it is what it is.
yeah,
Right?
you bring up a really good point because actually, even in the movies, the B-roll is what's the funniest, the bloopers. That's why people, they
Yes.
want to laugh, they want to see the junk, they want to see the things that you would trim. They're going to take more away from that. The B-roll is the best part. Before somebody hits record, anything you said on break or during commercial, that's where the meat of the
I
fun
love
is.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, I don't know if everyone knows this, and I don't know if you'll remember, but if you're reminding me of that, there was some major like newscasting broadcast where there were like the newscasters in the panel, like all and the one reporter didn't realize, I think it was his cat was sitting up there, and this is on live TV, and everybody just starts laughing. It's supposed to be super professional, and the cat's up there in place, and they're like, excuse me, do you know your cat's on camera? And
I
it's
love
hysterical.
it. Love
It's just like it's okay to make mistakes, be flawed, be real, have fun with it. This is your business, enjoy it, right?
it.
And you
100%.
don't only enjoy your business when the money comes in or the connections come in, enjoy yourself, getting to know yourself as you develop and in all your little imperfections and perfections and all the things. It's just a nice ride. But okay,
So,
my very last question
yes,
for you is a
ready.
good one because
Ready.
you, like you said, you're like really great left brain, get it done, check the to-do list, but you're also so soulful and your mission is so pure at what your connection is about. And this is a big thing for this group, of course. All of us women want to be as inspired and soulful as possible. So the question is, what practices do you suggest for getting in touch with your soul's purpose? What is your suggestion for women that want to get more in touch with themselves?
Oh, that's good. Play.
Oh,
So
that sounds
what,
fun.
yeah, what I mean by that is that if we can really figure out what makes us happy. So for 1 week, just look at because I always call it the whites of their eyes. So when you're aligned with your passion, when you wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning thinking about whatever, if it's painting, if that's where your creativity. But when someone leans forward to me and the whites of their eyes show, that body language tells you everything. So if they're coming forward and you're playing and you feel that excitement, stop. Is it because you were writing something, reading something, painting something, cooking it, talking to somebody? Are you introverted, what are you feeling in that? And then expand that. Go on to YouTube and research that. Go in to look at different businesses doing that. Again, making jewelry, whatever it is.
Start to imagine it, right?
Play,
Yes.
just like you were a kid being taught T-ball.
Yeah.
Did you end up being a baseball player? Maybe not, but you learned blank. I mean, play different sports, play in business,
I
right?
love this. That was a great actual way to end this interview on the focus of play. I mean, we put all of the pressures and all the to-dos and all of the, the goals and the vision boards and all the things, and they all matter. But sometimes we forget to just play and use our imagination and get to know ourselves and pay attention, like you said, how are we feeling? And that's how you get in touch. And and it goes right back to what I was saying. If there's a desire in your heart, you don't have to question it. It's meant for you.
Mhm.
It's meant for you. That's it. So I don't think we could close out this interview any better than that, with some play and passion and purpose. Play, passion, and purpose. So,
Perfect.
okay, before we close this out, share once again your website, because I really want people to get a chance to get to know you more and check out what you got going on.
Absolutely. Go play on my website, allthingswellness.com, or you can reach me at Peggy at allthingswellness.com. You can email me. I'm across social media. I've got my link tree out there. So reach out and let me help you, because that's what gets, I'm a vessel right now. Tell me your story. Let's figure out how to get it out there.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Peggy. And women, I told you this would be an energetic, invigorating, inspiring. I don't have enough adjectives to describe how fabulous this is. I knew this was going to be a experience. So I'm so thankful for you sharing. And yeah, it's just been such a pleasure. So, all right. Well, wealthy women, I will see you next Wednesday for another success story interview being shared. So just remember, be inspired, go for your dreams, keep going, build a community for yourself, and don't do all of it all at once. Take your time, set your boundaries, enjoy the experience, because this is your dream life that you're creating. And the dream isn't a place you arrive at, it's the entire journey. So make sure the journey is good. And that's all for now. So see you next time, hearts.
Bye.
I love it. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, let me just